Few know what it means to be reborn, a sensate.
A what?
You saw her, but that's just the beginning.
I can feel you. But you're not really here, are you?
You are no longer just you. You will start to feel strange things. Anger and joy and pain. Pleasure without any reason.
Go, 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 go for pleasure! Welcome, my friends, to Cordkillers. Our mission is to report the intel from the front lines of the cord-cutting revolution for the purposes not of cutting cords per se, but letting you have control over what you watch, when you watch, where you watch, and on what devices you watch. I'm Tom Merritt.
Oh, man, I'm Brian Brushwood, and you know what I'm excited for is to take control of my Netflix connection and watch me some Sense8, which I hope is good, in spite of the fact that it's from the fine siblings that brought us the Matrix trilogy.
Well, it's the Wachowskis, but also J. Michael Straczynski of Babylon 5 fame.
And am I mistaken? That was the guy from Heroes, right?
No.
No,
Naveen is from Lost.
Oh, Lost. Yep. There we go. Thank you for knowing my brain better than I know myself. For those of you audio
someone
listeners,
who also knows your brain in the background there, and that would be our guest on today's show, Justin Robert Young.
Yes. How you guys doing?
Hey, man, I got to admit, my excitement went from 0 to 8 when I saw the Sense8 treasure.
Exactly what happened.
But what it reminded me of is there's a Peter F. Hamilton Void trilogy that takes place in a post-singularity world where you can not only have a clone to back yourself up, but some forward-thinking individuals are constantly, as they call it, going multiple. They have like several different bodies, and while one of them's making love, or 2 or 3 of them are making love all together with someone, 4 or 5 of them are off, doing drafting work or whatever. And I loved that bizarre mind bender of an implication. And if they pull it off, I think I could really dig Sense8.
Trailer looked good. Trailer made me hopeful. Trailer good.
Salt. Lot of grains of salt, though, right? Like the Wachowskis have not earned. They've long forfeited the I'm into it no matter what.
Yeah. No. Highly skeptical. I'm sorry. Yeah, the Wachowskis' batting average, they hit 1 home run and then just kept showing up at bat.
I mean, they've earned enough that I will pay attention to what they do more than just rando McGirt, right? But I think somewhere along Speed Racer way, I was like, I don't know if I'm just going to cape up for everything you guys do anymore.
Cloud Atlas did it for me. Wachowskis are now, I'll take a look. J. Michael Straczynski makes me think
which
that could be interesting.
And the argument for Cloud Atlas is that was a collaborator, whereas Jupiter Ascending, not a collaborator, hot piece of garbage.
Stayed away. That's what I did with Jupiter Ascending. Although I was tempted to rent it this weekend, but I didn't.
Dude, okay. Well, shall we move on?
You know what?
Sir?
Yeah, you know what'll make you feel better, Brian?
What?
Primary Target.
Heck yeah.
Hey there, folks. We got a lot of news from the broadcast networks because the upfronts were happening and shows got greenlit and people did earnings reports, and CBS CEO Les Moonves always says really interesting things during his earnings reports, mostly probably to distract people from looking at the financials. Moonves said HBO Now is proving the opportunity to go over the top exists, and that CBS's Showtime will be rolling out their own version, quote, in the coming months. He also said the company is very encouraged by $6 a month CBS All Access product. He said the whole country should get it by the end of the year. And COO Joe Iannello said that the All Access $6 a month project underscores our value in retrans and reverse comp negotiations, which in English means we can now point at that when we negotiate with our affiliates and our cable companies about how much they should pay to get CBS content.
So you're saying this $6 a month becomes their peg that causes people to unfairly or fairly evaluate the value of their content at $6 a month to all users, no matter what negotiation.
They can point to this and go, these people over here giving us $6 each. $6. You're not giving us anywhere near $6. We're not even asking you to give us $6. We just want a lot more than what you were giving us.
Which is 1 cent or whatever.
Well, no, affiliates, I don't know how much affiliates pay, but cable companies will pay, close to 50 cents to $1.
Right, but of course, $6 is an
subscriber.
unfairly skewed number, specifically because it's targeted at people who love CBS programming so much that they're willing to pay to get it, anytime, anywhere. But that's an extremely effective strategy. Psychologically, once you have a peg, it's all of a sudden asking for 50 cents or $1 is a poor negotiating position. You want to find your way to the middle.
It's also not just the monthly number; it's the number of players. The more people that are out there, including whoever they make direct connections with from provider to consumer that are competing. So let's say if CBS also wants to do, and we're going to get to this in a minute, but like Sling TV, or if Apple decides to get into the bundling game, the more players they have paying them X amount of money, the stronger their positioning rights are, not only with everybody that gets in now, but also with, what seems to be kind of a critical mass point that we have with cable and satellite retransmission right fees.
So
let's go back to Showtime for a second,
Sure.
because and this actually expands on the CBS All Access thing. CBS is saying we've got one product that people can buy a la carte. We're going to do Showtime because HBO Now is proving that that's valid. Do you guys think this creeps towards other channels? Do we see an AMC or an FX decide to go this route next?
I mean, as has always been on this journey, it really boils down to what their current established agreements will allow them to do, right?
That's part of it.
We
That's
saw
definitely was part of HBO, and it's probably going to be part of Showtime. But let's go past that. Let's say, okay, they can figure out that part of the equation. Would they want to do it?
So here's what I could easily see happening. Every individual independent station makes the same gamble that HBO already successfully has done. HBO has looked the cable networks in the eyes, risked pissing off the one that brung them to the dance, and said, we're going to offer it straight on the internet. And they seem to have threaded that needle and are coming out on the other side. The success of that now opens up for everything that looks a lot like HBO, like this Showtime deal and so on. And from there, it's trickle down. Now, of course, we're going to see AMC. So I think we're going to see this giant splintering over the next couple of years of everybody offering an individual app, and then some brilliant person's going to realize, like, wow, if you bought CBS All Access and you got HBO Now and you got the Showtime Independent and you got AMC and you got all these other things, it just seems like that would add up to $150 a month to get all of them independently. What if we did some kind of bundling of all these online services where for only $80, maybe $100 a month, you were able to get all of them? You don't have to go a la carte anymore. So in other words, I think we're going to see this weird consolidation that brings us back to the cable model, just in a totally distributed IP-based version of it.
I totally agree with your point, the end position, Brian. I do think that when we get there, what we will have gained through all this, because I do think that the landscape in 10 years, although radically different and IP-based, will look similar to how the bundling looks now. The big difference is that I think what we'll gain is the more a la carte ability to drop things here or there. There will be a little bit more pick and choose as opposed to it coming in just like tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 in the way it is now.
Agreed.
And there's shaping up to be a big difference between live and on demand. I mean, if you look at let's leave cable out of it for the moment. You can get a service like HBO Now or CBS All Access that gives you access to all of the shows. And HBO Now doesn't give you a live stream, but it lets you get it as soon as it airs. You can get CBS All Access, gives you a live stream. And you can also get something like Sling TV, which gives you linear channels and gives you live with limited on demand. So I think it breaks down, Brian, where the cable companies are still like, hey, we're the guys who give you everything for $90 a month. But all of these networks say, yeah, that's fine. Yeah, you can do that. You can even do Sling TV, and you can do PlayStation View, and you can do Verizon's, whatever it comes up with, and maybe Apple has something. But if you want the control that Justin's talking about, we're offering that to you, and we'll make it better. We'll give you our entire back catalog, which you won't get from those linear channels. And I don't think those get bundled up because I don't think the networks want to give that up.
Well, so here's the thing. It seems to me that we're seeing a journey not from paying too much to finally paying a fairer price, not from going from a forced one-size-fits-all package to an individual a la carte plan, it seems like really, I mean, there's going to be downsides no matter what. And as we've talked about lately, I suspect we're going to end up spending the same $80 to $120 a month for our entertainment packages, video-based in general. But if there's an upside to it, and I think it's a very strong upside, is that we're going to see a much more efficient market. If you're somebody who absolutely insists on being able to see every single live sports package the way it comes out, there'll be a way to do it where you pay the exact right amount that you are interested to the extent that you can see that, which we don't get right now because, of course, as we talked about before, right now cable television, all the non-sports people are subsidizing the sports fans, and I think we're going to again, it won't be as pretty or as filled with flowers as we'd like it, but it'll be a hell of a lot more fair.
Although I do think that there will be, in 10 years, and this, it's funny because when we used to do this 15 years ago, it was like the Jetsons, and now it just kind of looks like next Tuesday. But yeah. In the world that will exist, there will be live, and then there's going to be everything else. And I don't think that content that doesn't need to be live will be preferably sold as live. Our generation that has some connection to like, oh, I want to watch Mad Men theoretically in the same frame that everybody else is watching the finale will not matter as much when we live in a world where, yeah, it all gets uploaded to the server at the same time and we can all click play if we're watching it, get uploaded in the same kind of way. I don't think that live for things that aren't unfolding exactly as it happens, like let's say award shows and sports as an example, will really command the premium that they did before.
What about this? Okay. What if there is a free-ish model? We'll say currently Hulu. Hulu has sort of a scattershot of episodes available. There's no guarantee that you get the entire season. You have to watch ads, but it is free, right? But we've already seen a number of these things that value liveness, and we've seen other things like Netflix values completeness. You know, on Netflix, if you can see a single episode, odds are you could see the entire season, if not in the entire series. But it's like, I like the idea that there's these vectors. Like, do you value the freeness of television? Do you value the liveness of television, being connected at the same time that all your friends are? Or do you value the completeness of being able to binge watch all at once? I think we're going to see a lot of experiments that make pricing models more clear along those lines.
Yeah, I think trying to compare where this will all be in a few years to the current cable packages even is just irrelevant.
Yeah,
I think people who grow up, now will not they're like, wait, so you paid $90 and you got stuff live, but not everything was on demand. And like, what special perks did you get? And what screens? Oh, you had limits on what screens you could watch it on. And like, that all sounds stupid and confusing. I understand paying $9 for the AMC app, which gives me access to all of AMC's shows as they get posted and the back catalog of every show they've ever had. And I understand paying for the live streaming service that gives me basketball games and award shows like Justin's talking about. But I don't understand that old model. That just doesn't make any sense at all. It's like the worst of all possible worlds. I think, and that's where I think the cost thing just becomes impossible to compare because you're going to get so much more from these apps. You get so much more even from HBO Go than you got from an HBO subscription in 1999 that it's not the same value proposition at all.
Yes and no. What's funny is the more things change, the more they turn the same. When I was in second grade, I remember the cable going out was just a regular feature of having cable television. I saw the beginning and the end of Rocky 3 20 times. I don't think I ever saw them in the same stretch. Likewise, the echoes of that we see now in the HBO Go days and the HBO Now is nowadays it's part of my. I'm now 3 out of the 4 last episodes of Game of Thrones that I watched, I saw varying bit rates. I saw aspect ratios change as it tried to deal with the choke of everybody watching the same content at the same time. So I've seen, and again, just like the cable going out before fixed itself, I'm sure this will fix itself as well.
I haven't seen anything like that.
Oh my gosh! Well, and I can't
seen nothing like that either.
Wait, have you really not?
So you're watching HBO Go, Brian?
I am. I'm watching.
What
HBO
are you watching,
Go.
Justin?
Go.
I'm watching Now.
See, that's okay.
Same for me. No issues on Now.
Well, okay. Well, what's weird is
I'm also West Coast, so like, I mean, I'm watching it at they push it live at. Actually, I don't know whether or not they push it live East Coast. So
Anyway,
watch.
who knows? That is true about the variability of the quality of it. But I think you're right, Brian. That stuff will improve over time.
yeah.
To
clarify, Drew
go
Nel-
ahead, finish your point.
Yeah, Drew Nielsen in the chat room saying like aspect ratio changes, something where it's like 16:9 to 16:10 or something. Very small changes, little bars on the side as it's trying
watching
to.
it on a desktop or laptop, Drew, versus watching it on like an Apple TV.
Well, but you could tell it's going to a lowest resolution and it's doing a best fit at that resolution to push fewer pixels. And I mean, keep in mind, I'm on AT&T Gigapower, so that's gigabit Ethernet. So you would think the bandwidth wouldn't be a problem on my part, but who knows?
The one thing I will say about this that is very much going to be a different thing is the old model that Tom was talking about that I think will become more and more foreign was based on the idea that there are maybe 20 players who have money. So if you have television content and you want to make money doing it, you got to talk to these 20 people and make the best deals you can with them. In the new world, the coming age, there are far more people with far fewer dollars. And so those solutions will be made to cast the wider net as opposed to just cutting the sweetheart deals that you can and making whatever you can from the 20 people. It'll be the 20,000 or 20 million.
And I think it's really interesting to think about the comparison of CBS All Access to CBS Broadcast. You get CBS on TV, you get the linear channel, the ability to record it if you want, and maybe some on demand. You get CBS All Access, you have all of CBS's history, everything they have the rights to. For the most part, and that's why I think it's hard to compare.
I mean,
it's
again,
I'm paying $6 a month, but it's not just for CSI; it's also for old episodes of Star Trek and Hawaii Five-0, and who knows what else.
And in this case, they're doing $6. If I'm understanding you correctly, gets you 100% on the completeness vector and 100% on the liveness vector. Whereas I could see in the future 2 different $3 packages. Do you value the liveness and you don't need to go see episodes of Gilligan's Island, or do you value the completeness and it's like you don't care what you missed this week?
And also, when it comes to advertising, it's going to force these companies, as you said before, Brian, to really show their freeness.
Yep.
Free?
Agreed.
Nothing's free. Ain't gonna be anything free. The only thing free in this world is Cordkillers, and we still ask you to pay for it.
Touche, sir. As a matter of fact, a bunch of people, 2,103 of the finest dang people we've ever had the privilege to work for, have become our bosses, contributing enough money to keep us loud, live, and independent. We thank each and every one of you. Of course, we are now and will forever be your friend, and also free, but if you want to kick us some dollars, we're making sure to get you a few goodies here and there, which, by the way, I think we're about due for another State of the Cordkillers address, Tom.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. There aren't any goodies. Let's not lie. There haven't been. But we'll do a State of the Cordkillers. And honestly, the reason we ask you to back the show is because of the show. We pour every ounce of our creativity and energy into making Cordkillers and making Spoiler in Time. And we do want to do more State of the Cordkillers and things like that. But all of you who have backed us with just that value proposition of if you got some value out of the show, you're giving some value back. We cannot thank you enough. Patreon.com/Cordkillers.
Heck yeah, man.
Let's move on to the signals intelligence that those people paid for. Sling TV CEO Roger Lynch says a key decision was made from the very beginning of Sling TV to omit broadcast content from the package. He says their target market gets that stuff over the air or from Hulu. They don't care about broadcast, but he says you'll see us launch a broadcast network tier. They won't put it in the base package, but they'll add another one of those $5 a month packages for the broadcast networks. He also said it's not our vision that Sling TV will be everything that everyone wants. And I'll be honest, Sling, in my experience, is great for sports. It's great for I don't care television, like Food Network, HGTV, stuff like that. It's not great for HBO. It's not great for AMC. It's clunky to even get to the on-demand stuff they have, and then it's confusing which stuff is available on demand and which stuff is not. So I think it's a smart proposition here, Brian, that Sling TV is saying, We're going to give you control over the packages of the things you want, and we're pretty much here for you to just turn on and watch.
Dude, it's brilliant. It's a breath of fresh air to get somebody to loudly announce what they're not, you know? And it's like, and it's not something we've seen a lot in this game. We've seen a lot of loud proclamations like, finally, we've cracked it. And by cracked it, we mean we got 3 different deals, and we're not going to acknowledge that there might be programming you want to get another way or at another time. And instead, for Sling to own the fact that it is a very specific piece in a mosaic, I think is smart. And to not just say like, we scored the deal, now it's $20, but you get even more. And instead saying like, you know what, a lot of you guys doing this one way. That's brilliant. Here's the other thing that's wild for me is if we had this story a couple of years ago, and we talked about this on the phone beforehand, I don't know how thrilled I would be to hear about paying extra for what is currently free programming. But I think the landscape has really shifted to where I think more people are willing to accept the idea of paying $5 a month for something they've literally gotten free their entire life long.
But they haven't. Really? They've been paying for it through cable. Most people get the broadcast networks through cable. I think you're right. I hadn't even thought about it until you talked to me about this earlier. A lot of people think about it as free because traditionally it was over the air, but most people don't get it that way. Most people are paying for it.
Well, and even, okay, first of all, by most people, you mean everyone, because at some point you bought a freaking television. Nobody gave you a TV. It was never free, and your time has value. You're sitting through these advertisements for Dove. That has value. And it's like, again, we're just seeing an increase in the efficiency of the market. And I think, and again, you know, there's winners and losers. There's people who play it smart, people who play it dumb. I think Sling is playing it very, very smart.
Sling is playing it very smart, but let's play the game of winners and losers. Should they come in with a tier that is well priced, this is a shot across Hulu's bow. If they can provide to you a better solution to watch what is right now kind of the bread and butter for Hulu, which is big broadcast television shows with bigger star power, I think this is something that Hulu would have to worry about.
I don't think they will. And that's because as a Sling TV customer, I have never used it for AMC. It just isn't good for that. Unless I plop my ass down exactly at the time that Walking Dead or Mad Men or Better Call Saul starts, it just doesn't work because the on-demand shows up randomly later in the week. It's hard to navigate to anyway. And I can't imagine. The only way that you're right, Justin, and you could be right if they allowed for everything to be on demand in a timely manner. But I don't think the broadcast networks will. Broadcast networks aren't going to want to agree to not being part of the base package to begin with. They're certainly not going to allow Sling any kind of on-demand access in that case if they do agree to it. So my guess is Sling does this as a like, hey, for those of you who just like to turn on the TV and watch CBS and see whatever's on, here's our thing. We are now the legal Aereo for you in that particular case. If you want it on demand, you're going to have to go get CBS All Access or Hulu or an over-the-air antenna.
Yeah,
now, that is a really, really good point. And the only thing that I would counter that with is that what we are seeing right now is for what is an otherwise glacial landscape, a avalanche of change in progress. The fact that it's like HBO, Showtime, CBS, people like Les Moonves are talking about over-the-air kind of stuff. This is moving very, 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 very fast. And what's going to be fascinating, in the next couple years, really, is going to be whether or not CBS looks at these as not like, oh, is this lost money? Are we going to haggle with them the way that we would haggle with cable providers? Or do we just want to say, hey, whatever your customers want, let's try to do that because we want them to pay you so you can pay us. And we want everybody to get in on our programming because the more people that do, the more money we make because it is not about making the 20 deals. It's about making the much larger big net deals.
Absolutely. There's so many questions. I want to speculate wildly. File this away. We'll ask the folks at home. Do you think the reason that everything's happening fast right now is an indicator of the fact that bandwidth capabilities have finally permeated far enough that people can get this, or is it an indicator that that the legal agreements that have so far bound people are finally in a place of flexibility where they could talk about it? I know we're behind schedule right now, but that would be a good one. I want people to chime in on from the listeners.
I feel like those are really good questions.
Note of the second. It's always been the relationships, not the agreements.
It's the relationships, and it's somebody taking the first step. And you have to have the legal agreements in the right position for somebody to take the first step. You have to have the bandwidth high enough that people will be willing to consume it. Although Netflix kind of proved the bandwidth part of that equation already. So they took that first step. HBO and Sling TV, and I think more HBO Now than Sling TV, have shown, hey, we can get around these agreements. We could figure this part out. Sling TV's agreements are kind of a mess, and you can see it in their service. HBO Now is like, we're taking that step out. Showtime's ready to follow. I'm curious to see who else follows up next.
Sling got ESPN, which is huge.
Yeah. Gear up, my friends. Put on some gear.
I'll do
Wear
it.
a Roku.
Hang on, I'm half robot now, and I'm robot.
Strap an Apple TV to your head. New York Times talked to an employee briefed on the product about a new Apple TV that is supposedly going to be announced at the Worldwide Developers Conference June 8th by Apple. And the remote got all the attention. It's going to have a touchpad, be slightly thicker than the current version, and the touchpad would be used for scrolling around. There would be 2 physical buttons, and then you use the touchpad for everything else. Other notes, Apple TV added CBS Sports and the USA Now apps. Interesting that they're different takes. The CBS Sports app just shows you clips. Don't have to prove you subscribe to anything. It's just a way for them to promote their service. USA Now requires authentication. It's the traditional, you have to be a cable subscriber to log in, and then you can get the stuff. What do we want from an Apple TV if it comes out June 8th? Do we want Apple to have a service? I actually am not sure I do. I would rather them just like have a bunch of different services. Can I choose from a Sling and a Verizon and I know Sony's not going to put it on there, but I would, you know what I mean? Like, I'd like to have a selection and not Apple locking it down and saying, here's the Apple television service. Well, and that's all you get.
A lot of what I want I've said before, so I'd like to hear Justin's perspective on this.
I want for the most amount of choice, whether or not that means that Apple gets into the bundling game and therefore, because they are such a gigantic company, are able to make more aggressive deals. And you have what Apple is doing right now with streaming services, where they're basically making, very, very aggressive and if not illegal, threatening kind of statements that other people in the space are upset about. For the benefit of having a better service, or they are just kind of the meta of, hey, here's just a different place where if you are in this walled garden, you can unsubscribe from Sling TV and subscribe to this new thing, or just put together whatever you want on a screen that will allow you to customize, where you can just have the a la carte dream that we have all wanted forever. To be honest, I can't say that I want one more than the other. Because like we said before, things are changing so fast. And I don't know what I want, because I am, basically the guy who used to, have kerosene lamps before electricity and likes a certain golden hue to his room. Or if it is something that I'm really going to want 10 years down the road.
So here's the opportunity. Apple's brand, pretty fairly consistently has always been, we make it easy for you to process the difficult nature of technology. We make the PC personal. We allow, we care about you or whatever. If you're going to do that and you're going to stand out from the crowd, because right now the Apple TV looks like an awful lot of Me Too products out there that you attach to a television. They have these exclusives. They have that blah, 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 blah. What I would like to see that I think would be the most true to Apple's brand aesthetic is, number one, they got to add voice, which it doesn't sound like they're doing right here. You might be able to work around it. But if they had, and you've heard me pine for some kind of concierge level service, what if you sat down and they said you're going to have a 15-minute conversation with your Apple TV. It's going to ask you about shows that you like and don't like, and it's going to come up with 3 different proposals for things that you only have to sign up with Apple. They'll pay the appropriate people. They'll subdivide the contracts in order for this service and that service and the other things, and you will live in your nice, comfortable bubble where you can always see Better Call Saul. You can watch The Walking Dead. You'll always be able to see. You can go back and explore The Wire. You'll definitely see Game of Thrones. You'll not miss out on sporting events. The 12 things because there's very quick binary questions like, you like sports or no, and it's like no. It's like, well, you say no, that means all sports, full stop. Yeah, no, I never care about sports. Then all of a sudden there's a huge swatch that it could cut out from the options of packages, and if there's just this brief interaction and all of a sudden I'm in my perfectly formed bubble, that seems like a very Apple experience that wouldn't take a lot of legwork on their part.
It seems like they've certainly done that with the Genius bars. They offer little one-on-one tutorials where you actually go to talk to somebody to see how you can use that software better. I could see maybe something like that. I don't know about building it into the software itself. However, when you said that, it made me kind of think, because that experience, at least emotionally, if not one for one, was how people described TiVo in the early going.
Yeah.
Right? And so maybe it is just a smart filtering of what you do and the deals that are available to you, what you're buying. I mean, listen, for a lot of people right now, Apple would be able to say to me, hey, you bought Mad Men on iTunes, you bought Better Call Saul on iTunes, you've had this amount of, you've watched, if they can make the deal with the data for Netflix, that like through our interface, you've watched X amount of things on Netflix. That means that we kind of think that you would like these services. Maybe that is a way to do it. I think the Apple way would be would remove the middleman of an interview process and just kind of have it show up there. But
and also BioCow says, so I have to go in through an interrogation each time I want to change my package. That's the whole point, is you would just say, hey, I want to watch Better Call Saul, and it would say, hey, couple of options. You could just buy last night's episode, or you can subscribe to this for a while, and I'll remind you in a month whether or not you want to resubscribe, and then or unsubscribe. Like somebody who just took care of these things. If we could get to that, it just works, and I'm not locked in anything, and I'm not spending all my money. That's open space that nobody is touching right now.
Now you're talking my language. I did not like the way you described. I liked the way you described it. I did not like what you described, where I had to answer questions. I think some combination. I think we're circling around it, and probably Apple people who might be listening would be laughing at us if they were listening. Like, yeah, we had these conversations 10 years ago. But the idea of it, looking at your history, knowing who you are, selecting your preferences, and then just surfacing like, oh, you want to watch that? Here's your options. I love that idea. I think Apple gives you. I'm starting to think, just listening to you guys, Apple gives you a pass and says, hey, pay this month. Unlock every app on your Apple TV. Don't have to sign in, authenticate with anybody anymore. And then combine that with what you're talking about, Brian, where there's a concierge that's like, oh, you want to watch this? Yeah, you have access to it. Or if you don't have access to it, here's how you get access. That's genius.
Genius bar all the way to the bank. Hope you're listening, Apple.
Meanwhile, what I want you to do is turn off that television for a moment and read my book.
Oh, wait. Here's the question, Tom. When it comes to books, I got 3 questions. Can I read it when I want?
Yes. And you'll need light, unless you have a backlight on your ebook reader.
All right. Can I read it where I want?
Yeah. I don't. Well, I mean, some countries might ban it. I don't think so, though. I think you can pretty much read it wherever you want.
Can I read it pretty much on any damn device I want, give or take?
No. Well, yes. Well, no. Yeah, but you can't read it on a bus's dashboard, but you can read it on pretty much anything that'll read an ebook any way you want.
Wait a minute. So you're saying I can read your book on ebook? I could probably listen to some kind of audiobook version, and I could read it in a dead tree. Well, okay, not yet.
Not yet.
I'm just look, Tom, you got to work with me here. I'm trying to sell your book and tie it into our relevant Cordkillers audience.
But as far as reading with your eyes, yes, Brian.
What is this book about, Tom?
Well, this book is called Citadel 32, Justin, and it's about a man named Corgi who's on the moon and discovers something called sugar rock. And it turns into a big discovery because it turns out these people on the moon are stranded because an apocalypse happened on Earth and cut them off. They've been trying to survive ever since. Meanwhile, down on the ground, there's a monk of the Citadel who's discovered that this sculpture turns out to have a little something more to it and might be the key to understanding what happened to the mythical moon men. 2 parallel stories and an amazing adventure.
Look, that's an epic space journey, but I'm afraid I don't have $200 to spend on just any old book. It better be a hell of a story if I'm going to spend $200.
Well, I'm afraid you're out of luck then, Brian, because wait, there's even a free version. Go to TomMerrittBooks.com. You can get a free Creative Commons version. You can pay to have it delivered to your favorite e-reader, or you can even pay a little bit more money and get a print version with the cover by Scott Johnson done in 3D.
Heck yeah.
Look at that.
That is amazing. And by the way, people who are just listening, go ahead and just for your own edification, search Citadel 32 and just see that art because it looks fantastic.
No, Scott did a great job. Let's move on to the front lines.
Front lines.
Analyst MoffettNathanson has their latest numbers on the subscribers to pay TV, and for the first time ever in Q1, they had a net loss of 31,000 customers. Even though DirecTV, Verizon, Fios, and even Time Warner Cable showed customer builds, it could not offset the losses from other providers.
All right. Now, Tom, you know that I'm finicky on these kind of stories because it's always this week you got to lay your baby face down or he'll die. Now it's this week you got to lay your baby face up this week. And new research says, go back to laying face down. Yeah. Do you feel like we're zeroing in on a final decision about cord cutting?
Yeah. If you listen to this show regularly, you know why we feel this way, because it's always like, hey, subscriber numbers are down for this sector, but not this sector. And it's going to turn around. It's going to turn around. This is the first time that even MoffettNathanson is saying it's not going to turn around. Cord cutting is
whatever we think, they think that the party's over, which is why these companies are making those deals.
Heck yeah. Hey, man, Paul Thurrott, who normally has a good track record on this sort of thing, says a DVR feature for the Xbox One is coming, likely this year. Can the Xbox One be the one box for everything, which is certainly the way they were pitching it at its ill-thought-out E3 press event. I suspect it might be a little bit too little too late, because that's the kind of stuff I wanted to see out of the box. Tom?
I think this is a good thing. I don't think it's too little too late at all. It just adds to the ability to do stuff. I think the problem is you still have to want to play games for this to make sense. If you don't want to play games, it doesn't make the monetary sense to spend the extra dollars.
Justin, do you have any next generation consoles?
Hell no. I don't play video games. I just play Hearthstone.
Wait, I changed my mind. DVRs are of the past. In the future world, we're just going to pay for apps that give us access to everything in the company's catalog anytime we want. You don't need a DVR. DVR is for old people.
Dude, yeah, no, this is the finest gramophone they've made yet.
Reddit hired 2 producers from The Verge, whose first project is an interview series based on Reddit's AMA feature, the Ask Me Anything feature, which will show up on Reddit's YouTube channel.
Dude, I love this idea. This is a brilliant idea. This is a chance for them to break out under the Reddit brand and to do essentially, one of my favorite YouTube channels is to peek on the big think stuff, dudes talking in front of a white background. If they can get that level of curation to thought leaders without becoming a mockery of itself, the way, like, for example, TED kind of has become, I think this is a strong space for them to grow into.
More specifically, I think they have an opportunity to be relevant in a way that TED or Big Think are not, because very often AMA are news-breaking events. To add a video component to that on a viral platform like YouTube is seemingly a win-win.
I just hope it's just a video of someone typing their answers to AMA.
Or telling their assistant to type their answers.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, it's nothing but animated GIFs of like flying kittens with upvotes in their eyes. New remote for the Xfinity X1 cable box has a dedicated voice button and embedded microphone to allow voice commands and search. It's available for free to anyone with the X1 cable box. I got to tell you, this seems to me like a life-saving gesture. If cable companies can get ahead of the ease of use feature and lose their reputation for terrible guides or whatever, where you just say like, show me blank and it shows it to you, they might be able to hold on to a lot of $100 a month subscriptions.
I mean, that'd be
skeptical.
Say what?
I said I'm skeptical.
What about you, Justin?
Yeah. Wait, we're talking about like Comcast, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Adding a really awesome customer service feature,
Yeah.
and we think that's gonna work out for us.
Well, I mean, it's possible. They would make a lot of money if they did, is what I'm saying.
You know, it'd make me a lot of money.
I just don't love voice recognition as much as you, Brian. I guess that's my problem. I don't even use it. I have it on Roku and Fire TV, and I never use it.
What is it that you love about hunting and pecking on a virtual keyboard?
Because I have control. I don't have to go, wait a minute. Wait, how do I phrase this? What do I say?
Dude, no, I've had great success.
Better call Saul.
Dude, I've not encountered that. It works way more often than not, in my opinion.
Because it's programmed for your accent. That's why.
All you have to do is learn to talk like me.
Maybe that's what I'll do. Meanwhile, let's talk about what's under surveillance.
It's all about location.
Woo, Doggy Tom, we got a lot of stuff to get through. How are we going to do this?
Okay, so we had all these announcements. Everybody greenlit and canceled all their stuff. So I'm just going to go through everything. Justin, Brian, tell me whether you'll watch or won't watch. Starting with X-Files 6-episode miniseries got its air date. Returns January 24th, 2016. Brian.
I will watch the first episode of this. Maybe more. Probably not.
Justin.
I want to believe. Hell yeah. 6 episodes? I'm in.
Hulu is reportedly making a TV series based on Myst, the video game, telling the origin story of the island in Myst. Justin, will you watch?
What's Myst?
Oh, shut up.
Brian, will you watch?
I don't even know. I don't. First of all, I disown all relationship with Justin Robert Young as of this moment. Second of all, I'll watch it only based on the other reaction. Like if people freak out and tell me it's amazing, I'll watch it.
I'll tell you, if it is as good as Powers, the PlayStation original series, then I will run away from it as fast as I can.
Sony has renewed Powers with new episodes coming to the PlayStation in 2016. We have Justin's answer. Brian, will you watch?
Only if I'm high as a kite and doing shots every time I see something that makes me wince.
Steven Spielberg's Amblin TV will produce a Minority Report series for Fox set 10 years after the end of the pre-crime years, with a former precog teamed up with a detective to find his way in the world. Brian, will you watch?
Man, that sounds nothing like Minority Report, and no, I will not.
I used to be a bald precog. Justin, will you watch?
Steven Spielberg's track record with television is the inverse to his track record with movies. He is a legendarily crappy television producer.
Dude, don't talk that way about Amazing Stories. Amazing Stories is amazing. The bomber fighter pilot drew a cartoon wheel that saved his life.
I mean, listen, and that show, if you actually liked it or not, just joking around, is so old it would have kids that vote.
Yeah, true.
ABC has ordered a second season of Agent Carter. Still sounds like they're going to do only an 8-episode run. Justin, will you watch?
I didn't watch the first one. I heard a lot of good stuff. So, I mean, I would be into it if I watched the first 8. I'll probably watch the second 8.
Hey,
Brian,
man,
will you watch?
I'll tell you what. I firmly promise that I will claim that I'm going to watch it.
It's time to start the music. The Muppet Show will come to ABC again, but this time with a mockumentary format. Brian, does that interest you? Will you watch?
Holy crap, what a Muppets move. I love this. If you're looking at The Office with Muppets, I'm so in, and I'm gathering the family, and I'm going to force them to watch it.
Justin, are you dead inside or will you watch?
I'm into it cautiously. This is a very writer's format, though. Mockumentary is not easy to do if you don't have talented writers. I don't think this will be able to sustain just on the Muppet shtick beyond the first episode. So hopefully it's good.
But keep in mind also, though, keep in mind, those Muppet puppet operators are really good at improv. They've done live events where it's like they're throwing zingers out at Fox News and stuff. If you could capture that magic reliably in that show, I think it could work out really well.
Yeah, that's the only thing, though, is that while mockumentary has and can work like that when you have extremely talented improvisers, which I'm not going to say that they're not, right? Like, by and large, The Office, both incarnations of The Office were very, very, very scripted by writers who have gone on to do other great things and did great things before it. So I think it will all depend on the brain trust behind it, and I hope they don't just lean completely on the Muppet shtick.
Sense8, we heard the trailer at the beginning of the show, comes to Netflix June 5th. I can't remember. Brian, will you watch?
I will. Mainly because, again, I feel like the stakes are so low on Netflix. It's like they're all right there. I can watch until something shinier comes along. And in the case of like a Daredevil, nothing shinier comes along. And hopefully it'll be like that.
Justin Robert Young, will you watch? Fox canceled the Mindy Project, but Universal is in talks with Hulu for 2 new seasons, if it came to Hulu. Brian, will you watch?
Wow. Not only does it come in, not only did it not handle itself in the market, but now it's going to go into an even more annoying format than Fox. No, I will not watch.
Justin, will you watch?
I won't, but it's not for me. I'm not a upwardly mobile, socially active professional woman, and I feel like there's a lot of those who are really excited that it's coming to the format that they probably watch the show on anyway.
I always knew there was something I deeply resented about you, Justin.
Spielberg strikes back. Amblin TV will also adapt Brave New World for a series on Sci-Fi. Justin, will you watch?
No.
Are you
Brian
crazy?
Brushman, will you watch?
Brave New World is one of the greatest dystopian properties of all time that's never gotten its due. It's never pulled it off. And granted, it's a little more nuanced and difficult than in 1984, but I will show up for the attempt. I don't care how epically they fail.
I will defend Justin's right not to watch. And that is what's under surveillance. Brian, what have you, in fact, actually been watching lately?
Man, it's been a bit weird hodgepodge. I finally watched the end of Daredevil, which we'll talk about, the last part of episode 12, and, of course, the finale. We'll talk about Game of Thrones. I did catch the first couple episodes of this season of Silicon Valley. With Silicon Valley, I never finished all of the first season. I sort of skipped through. Feel like I lost nothing. I feel like Silicon Valley is a very good drop in the middle. All you need to know is dudes have some Silicon Valley heat, and they're trying to navigate their way through the jungle. Just jump in.
It's very much like the Mindy Project that way.
Is it? I would know. I'm not an upwardly mobile woman.
That's what I've always resented about you.
I did watch a couple of Bob's Burgers because new seasons were available on Netflix. We rewatched Interstellar as a way to celebrate Mother's Day by rubbing it in Bonnie's face that all of the mothers died in Interstellar.
Wow,
and all
bummer.
of the dads abandoned their children. And
Happy Father's Day.
and freaking Friday, my kids stayed home, and I pointed out, I was like, hey, it's almost 10 o'clock. You ever seen The Price is Right? And she's like, the what? And I was like, you're going to sit your ass down and you're going to get educated on what the best game show of all time looks like. And she got into it.
Justin Robert Young, what have you been watching lately?
Not a whole hell of a lot, man. I'm going to be honest with you.
Seat back, a tray, table, upright position, right?
Basically, Game of Thrones, Silicon Valley. I'm a little frustrated with this season of Silicon Valley. I was kind of hoping it would make kind of a sophomore leap. I guess I keep expecting it to be Extras, where Extras was a show that you loved, and then it turned into this different kind of show as the main characters took professional strides, and yet Silicon Valley seems very destined to just kind of keep everybody in the same situation and just kind of keep throwing different versions of the same problems at them.
I've been watching I watched the season finale of The Last Man on Earth. It ended great. It took me right to the edge of cringe overload and then pulled back and then gave me a twist at the end that I think I might absolutely love. I've been watching Bob's Burgers on Hulu because you can get all the way caught up on Hulu, and the new episodes have been showing up there. I've been watching Silicon Valley too, and I've been enjoying it fine. I'm not loving it or hating it, but I don't feel like I have to watch it Sunday night. I always wait until a little later in the week, if that tells you anything. The Flash is great. Arrow is great. Game of Thrones, obviously. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I am inertially watching. I kind of make myself watch it, hoping it's going to get better, and it hasn't. But I like a lot of the people in it. And Mad Men, I've been both confused and entertained by these final episodes, and next week is the season finale, and I'm very much looking forward to it.
Series finale.
Yeah, season and series. You're right. It's the whole damn thing is ending. That's it.
I have like 3 seasons to go with Mad Men. I was really, really into it, and then at some point I just kind of fell off. But controversial from what I understand. Maybe it might.
Yeah, I can't really get into it.
I hear
without
the L
spoiling
word
it,
getting
but-
tossed around in terms of a final season. I hear the lost word getting tossed around, which is never a good sign.
Well, and also Sopranos. It looks like it's headed to a Sopranos finale, but we'll see. We'll see. I like it. I like what they're doing. It's confusing me. It's weird. But I guess maybe part of what I like is I recognize everything now because I'm alive at this point in the show. And I'm like, oh yeah, my grandma had that stitching and we had that exact cabinet. And so that's kind of fun too. And that's what I honestly have always liked that about Mad Men is just the style of it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely.
Let's get to some dispatches from the front.
If you insist, sir.
I do.
I mean, they took all the effort to bother to write us.
We might as well just not ignore them. Rob wrote in, said he finished up a big survey of cord cutters. I think Rob writes for extremist.com because he sent us a link to extremist.com. They found out that younger you are, the higher the likelihood of sharing passwords to your services, not just HBO Go, but also Netflix. Older age results in a healthy fear that these services are going to put an end to all this freeloading sooner than later. HBO Go has the largest percentage of borrowed streaming services, as you might guess. And that's what Rob sent us from extremist.com. It's a really cool looking site. Go check it out.
Yeah,
Extremist.
Yeah, like you used to be a streamist, but you gave it up, and so
But yeah,
it's
you're no longer a
streamist. STREAMISTEX at the very beginning.
Or you're extreme.
And by the way, he did. Obviously, it's not the most scientific of surveys, but he said they got either 200 or 400 responses, but enough to be, I would imagine, statistically significant among the folks who watch Cordkillers. We also got an email from Eric who says, I've listened to every episode of Cordkillers. In spite of Brian.
Whoa, shots fired.
In spite of Brian, I enjoy the show very much. I understand spoilers are going to occur. What I have issue with is when people enjoy spoiling things when it's unnecessary. In episode 67, Tom was describing the Star Wars trailer without naming Han and Chewie when Brian interrupted, mocking Tom for doing so and more than happy to provide the spoiler. It is not a spoiler! Pause this. It is not a spoiler when you accurately report the facts of the advertisements for a thing, especially when it's a story that we've covered a billion times before. Unless you were secretly afraid that Harrison Ford was going to play a character that wouldn't look or be Han Solo, then I don't understand that at all. That's fine. There you go. Recently, Brian thought it would be funny to watch Game of Thrones on HBO Go, skip to the end, and then tweet the ending. Douchebag is what he says to me. To which, number one, let me say that is not something I did. It is something that I have repeatedly said. I'm surprised nobody else does. However, if you're going to play that game, turns out there are leaked scripts for the entire series of Game of Thrones. They're even published by a man named George R.R. Martin. He is the greatest spoiler chief in all of Game of Thrones territory. Take it up with him. Says, I get that Brian doesn't understand my point of view. What I don't understand is why you would knowingly piss off a segment of your listeners. Look, man, I derive no joy from pissing off anyone. However, we live in a world where I believe the pendulum has swung too far. I understand. We do our best to not ruin anything from you. If we perceive that we would take something away from you, we try to keep it in spoiler in time. But this business that just because you're Amish, you don't want to see someone else driving a BMW, that's on you, bro. You selected the Amish lifestyle, and I have no obligation to not drive around you so you don't have to see a car.
I 100% agree with Brian, although I'm not sure about the whole Amish thing, but I get what he's after, right? Which is like talking about things can't happen if you never spoil anything. It's all about where you draw the line. I was drawing the line at the reveal of the end of the Star Wars trailer because I felt like at that point, maybe not everyone had had a chance to see it yet. And the idea of having, that was a surprise ending. When I saw it for the first time, I had this chill run down my spine because there they were and I wasn't expecting it. It wasn't spoiling that Harrison Ford is in the movie. It was just saying like, hey, there's a cool thing at the end if you haven't seen it yet. At this point, this far down, I don't feel bad talking about the fact that Harrison Ford and Chewbacca are at the end of that trailer. And we've got to all come to a reasonable accommodation about the fact that we need to be able to talk about things. And yeah, to say telling the ending of something, of an actual movie or an actual book, is spoiling. Giving the like pivotal twist to a movie or a book is spoiling. But talking about a trailer, even what Brian did there, where I was like, oh, maybe I'll leave it, I don't consider that egregious spoiling. And if you do, I don't know, man. I all I would say is, like, I get, like, you don't want Brian to be actively trying to spoil you, but I'm telling you, Brian wasn't.
Well, let me just say this. We, the collective we, don't need to do anything, because this is automatic. This is what a culture is. You, and by you, I mean everybody individually, makes their own decisions on what kind of stuff they want to hear about and what they don't want to hear about. It's a beautiful age that we live in which there are many, many, many ways that you can get your discussion. Some of them have different views on spoilers than others. In my world, and I believe that I am closer to the median of where the internet, a comment talking head culture believes that trailers are deliberately put out by the filmmakers and studios and are part of the larger experience. So spoiling the trailer is like spoiling a movie that is already, out and we are discussing about in a format for which it is readily available and you can watch it immediately. That is just the world that we live in. It blows my mind, like, that if you want to do it, that's cool, right? But I'm with Brian. I think the Amish analogy is the perfect way to go about it.
Dan in Rochester wrote us a huge spoiler. His parents have 2 TiVos. Just that's it.
I mean,
yeah.
I first of all, that number one, Tom, that was at the end of the letter. And I, for one, was looking forward to hearing the entire letter before we got to that reveal. But if you just want to Avengers Age of Ultron this up, then fine. Give us the big tip at the end.
Does anyone want a new unused over-the-air sans lifetime service, TiVo? Oh, that's the last line in the email. No, in all seriousness, Dan in Rochester wrote in and talked about how he bought a second TiVo over the air for his parents because they winter in a different location than they summer. And he figured this is just easier than having to have them cart it around and set it up and having him email him questions. But he couldn't get it with lifetime service. He tried and tried and tried. And the only thing they would do would sell him a year commitment. And he's like, well, they're not even going to be there 6 months of the year. So they came up with some deal where he could pay monthly for 18 months, then cancel for 6 months and repeat. Then he heard about the fact that you could get the TiVo over the air with lifetime service sometimes when you loaded their webpage. So he called them and he still couldn't get them to agree to that. Luckily, he was able to get the deal through the webpage, even though it did come and go. And so he just bought a third TiVo over the air because it came with lifetime service. And now he's got an extra TiVo over the air without lifetime service that he's trying to get rid of.
Yeah. By the way, he wants to. Yeah, he was not pleased with all that. Last week we talked about the end of official support and integration for Windows Media Center DVR stuff. We got a message from Dave that says, I've been an avid user of Windows Media Center DVR to record with cable card for years. With the software not being a part of Windows 10, I was very disappointed. I've yet to find anything. And then today, I find this on Kickstarter. This is going to be a game changer for me. I already use HD Home Run Prime. This should be amazing. I thought this is something you could share with your audience. And he sends this over. If you go to Kickstarter and I assume do a search for HD Home Run, you'll see it. HD Home Run is a software service, if I remember correctly. Or no, I'm sorry, they do hardware, but now they're working on software that will replace the functionality. Play a little bit of what their Kickstarter video
These
looks
recording
like here.
systems, though, can be complicated to set up, requiring a PC-based server, as well as expensive media extenders or game consoles for every television. But that's all about to change with HD Home Run DVR. That's because HD Home Run DVR doesn't require a PC and runs on many popular network-attached storage devices that are already widely available from a number of manufacturers. The best part? It requires practically zero configuration and works with many existing HD Home Run devices. Live and recorded content can be watched from any device you already own with a brand new and innovative interface. Supported platforms include Macs, PCs, Android devices, and Amazon Fire TV. And yes, it even works with protected cable content. But Silicon Dust needs our help to finish this project. The reason is that for many years, the company has...
Yeah, so I mean, from what I saw in the video, I'm not familiar personally with the HD Home Run service. I don't know if you messed around with it, Tom, but it was popular because we also got from Jeff in Maryland. He says, huge potential problem exists for those who rely on WMC for their DVR on some cable providers. WMC is currently the only software approved by Cable Labs to play copy once content, which is DRM'd video that can only be played on the device that recorded it, or a WMC extender like the Xbox 360. So this is basically like a DRM encoding on there. All other software currently available, and he mentions various Kodi backends, NextPVR, etc., are only able to play/record copy freely material. Generally, this isn't a major problem, as Comcast and Verizon flag most content as copy freely and only tag HBO/Stars/Showtime and the other premium cable channels as copy once. Nevertheless, some providers tag everything as copy once, and therefore some users of Windows Media Center will eventually be forced to move away from an HTPC system as an option to receive cable TV on their computer. He mentions the exact same Kickstarter project that we just took a look at, and not sure if it was mentioned on the show earlier, but Silicon Dust has created a Kickstarter campaign.
That's the
raise
HD
funds.
Home Run thing.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I mean, if you want to continue to have cable and you want to continue to have some kind of way to record your DVR and have flexibility, HD Home Run seems like an awesome way of doing that.
Yeah, it does. This one threw me for a loop. Andy chimes in because he, I think he might be talking about our discussion in After Things yesterday, Justin. But
No, it was spoiler in time.
Oh, that's right. That's right. We did talk about this. Well, here, as a matter of fact, do you want to read this for us, Justin?
Sure. Andy. Hey guys, last week Brian and Justin declared the summer blockbuster dead because Avengers 2 had only the second biggest opening weekend in movie history. I really don't understand this idea. As I write this, Avengers 2 has already made 3 times its budget. Furious 7 profited well over $1 billion, more than the budgets of all other movies in the series combined. My point is, they can afford an occasional flop like Avengers 2 and still profit billions of dollars every summer. When you look at the worldwide grosses, it's hard to find a high-budget movie that didn't make back its budget. In 2014, RoboCop and Hercules over-doubled their money. 300: Rise of an Empire tripled it. Godzilla and Ninja Turtles nearly quadrupled. None of these movies were considered huge box office hits, but all were very financially successful. The only high-budget movie over the past 3 years that I could find that didn't make its money back was R.I.P.D. It lost $52 million. Good thing Universal profited about $600 million off Fast and the Furious 6 that same summer. I think they'll keep cranking out these summer blockbusters for some time to come. If I'm missing something, please explain. Maybe there's something that I'm not seeing or hearing, and maybe I totally misunderstood what you guys meant. Well, either way, I'd love to hear. Thanks, guys. I love the show, and I'm proud to support it. Andy from Taylor, Texas. Brian, you have a standing invitation for the Louis Mueller barbecue in Taylor any old day this summer.
Well, first of all, I might take him up on that. But second of all, I think that you might have misheard us. I don't think we were saying what we said. We probably did say the summer blockbuster is dead. But what it sounds like what he heard is the summer profitable movie was dead, which is not what we intended at all. Like, no. But go ahead.
So what I think got disconnected there is that I don't believe that the fact that these movies are making money is different. I think that is certainly a thing. What is interesting is the general grosses, and by that I mean over the entire summer. And also it stands to reason that we are talking about domestic and not foreign. Because in foreign markets, it is the absolute opposite.
Correct.
They are exploding on levels that we haven't really seen before, where domestic seems to be in a bit of a weird place. What we thought last summer when grosses were down was that maybe it just meant that the movies weren't exactly what the audiences wanted, and they wanted bigger star power. They wanted bigger IP. This summer, you absolutely have it. You have big names. You have big characters that people have come to know and love, including the Avengers 2. What I'm saying is not that the Avengers 2 is a flop, right? I'm saying that the Avengers 2, in a different point of box offices, should have been something that challenged for Avatar's spot. Should have been something that challenged for domestically a top 5 spot. Now it might end up there, right? But it hasn't had the initial pop to it. And so that's when I say you can't go home again, I just mean that the age of this thing, of these movies being surefire, gigantic hits that will do bigger than the one before it, might not be where we are.
Well, and I'll double down on that by saying 20 years ago, if we had the efficiency of communications that we had in the days where you needed to sit around and wait to read a review in the newspaper that would take a few days to come out, I would say that for as good a position as Avengers Age of Ultron had going into it 20 years ago, it would be the #1 box office draw of all time. But instead, we're living in this world where preview blogs within seconds are able to chip away at people's enthusiasms for things that people can't help but go into a movie knowing its reputation, and that makes it much, much more difficult. Whereas, like, you could take a movie that was generally liked and push it hard enough and dominate, unprecedented numbers before. That's much more difficult to do nowadays. And again, this isn't just Justin and Brian talking. This is Spielberg and Lucas talking.
Well, and all right. So, and I think we are crossing into different languages, right? Because I think when people hear this is not doing well, they think this is not doing well for you and me, right? Listen. We would all be really excited to have a percentage on Avengers 2 Age of Ultron. We would be thrilled to have a percentage on Infinity Gauntlet or Avengers 7 where it's just Hawkeye crying in a corner because that's the budget they want to make on it. It will still make more money than we could think about. What I'm saying is that if you start to understand where inflation is, of course, grosses should always rise because inflation always rises. If you look at the gimmicks, 3D, digital
IMAX.
form, large screen formats that bump up prices. When you look at per ticket, that has been going down for years and years and years.
Yep.
And what is interesting is that now maybe the gimmicks and the inflation isn't enough to continue this kind of upward trajectory forever.
Tom, what say you?
I say you guys are both right. I got nothing to add to that because Brian, you nailed it at the beginning. He heard movies aren't profitable, and that's not what y'all were saying. You were just saying movies aren't making as much money. They're still profitable. They're all still making their budgets back. So you're all right. All three of you are right.
Awesome.
I don't know. I mean, also, you don't want to look at just the budgets that are there on IMDb because that does not include marketing. That does not include how much they got to pay out in terms of percentage to producers and stars. A lot of these movies that he named, I would be interested to find out whether or not they were actually profitable. And I am joined by many people who do have percentages because Hollywood studios are famously hilariously bad at math when it comes to paying out other people.
Yeah.
Finally, Kirk Stephenson wrote regarding Prisoner 42, thank you.
Did you watch it, Tom?
I did.
And
I think it's one of the most important 11-minute Vimeo movies you can watch this year.
okay, good. and by the way, take that, guy who was slamming me on spoilers. I've been very good about not saying.
It's a perfect example of Brian knowing what the actual line is, that he has not mentioned a thing and didn't mention a thing to me other than watch Prisoner 42 about what you would find when you watch Prisoner 42. And I'm not going to change that. Go watch it.
If you trust me, watch Prisoner 42. That's all I got to say.
Hey, thank you, Justin Robert Young, for joining us again. It's always a pleasure, my friend. What of your many wonderful creations would you like to tell people about?
Man, you want to know what? I don't know if you can. I'm sure you guys can figure it out, but I just got my pack of Geek a Week cards that include.
Hey, look at that. I got my pack of Geek a Week cards, too.
I didn't get it.
And the double clicks.
Did you back the Kickstarter?
I did, yeah. I got Sarah Lane and Scott Sigler, Patrick Rothfuss,
Minion Fogarty,
Scott Johnson,
Al Lublin, Chloe Dykstra.
Go ahead and check those out. I don't know if
Geekaweek.net.
Yeah, geekaweek.net. Figure it out. It's Len Peralta, who is just amazing and works of course, on DTNS every Friday. But you know what? That's what I'm going to plug. I once a week am on Tom's little news roundup show, Daily Tech News Show. And this Thursday, I'm going to need all the friendlies I can because I'm going to be taking over the con. I'm going to be hosting the show in Tom's absence, and I would like to pack the room, the digital room, with people who are not going to throw rotten fruit at me. So if you would like to listen and support me on Thursday, then please do.
Heck yeah.
Our website is cordkillers.com. Our email address is cordkillers@gmail.com. And we are live on diamondclub.tv Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. Brian Brushwood, you're the best.
No, I can't be because you're the best.
You know who's the best?
Justin.
Walter Payton.
Oh. Hey guys, Tom and Brian here. We just wanted to say thank you to all of our $5 patrons who keep us loud, live, and independent. You guys make Cordkillers the production that it is.
Your name appears in the video credits and appears in our hearts. And if you'd like to become one of them or see who they are, you can go to patreon.com/Cordkillers.
You'll need to do more than just go there, though. You'll have to sign up and, pledge an amount. But
Unless you just want to see who they are.
Well, I mean, you could gawk. That's a little creepy, isn't it?
If you want to be a gawker,
Let's go.
it's up to you.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.